Hello, everybody, and welcome to a video where we are going to be breaking down a Magic the Gathering strategy article by Reid Duke. If you've never heard of Reid, he's in the Magic the Gathering Hall of Fame, he's a Pro Tour champion, he's a Worlds finalist, he's done it all when it comes to Magic, he's one of the best players to ever play, and he's also one of the best writers to ever write for Magic the Gathering strategy. I recently rediscovered this article. It's over 9 years old at this point, so I wanted to be able to give it some exposure for all of you so you could learn from it as well. It is called A Quick Story. Sometimes the simplest move is the flashiest. So I'm going to skip around in this article a little bit because I think that it really makes the article a lot better if we have the context of the point he's making before you get to the end. It makes it a lot more enjoyable. So the point of this article is all the way down here at the bottom. You don't have to do anything special to win at Magic. You don't have to come with a deck or strategy that no one else has ever thought of. Quite the opposite. It's the simplest strategies that perform best. Thoughtseize and Tarmogoyf win tournaments. Just these classic mid-range threats. Thoughtseize, discard spell. Tarmogoyf, 2-mana giant creature. Delver of Secrets, which is a big creature again for 1 mana with evasion. And Daze, which is a free counterspell, win tournaments. Bloodtithe Harvester, another classic mid-range threat from more recent times. And Fable of the Mirror Breaker, another classic mid-range threat from recent times, win tournaments. This is because these strategies are simple and low to the ground, and they don't leave big vulnerabilities. The more complicated your game plan, the more room there is for something to go wrong. The next time you start building a combo based around Tamio the Moonsage's emblem, just like a crazy Planeswalker emblem that is really hard to get to, Mirari and the Possibility Storm. Mirari is like a card that lets you copy instants and sorceries, and Possibility Storm is just absolutely wild. Just read that card and tell me, just like, yeah, it's crazy. Ask yourself if there's a simpler way. There are plenty of super exciting Michelle Yeoh, she's a martial artist, flip kicks to be done in Magic if that's what's fun for you. However, winning at a high level of competition is about the fundamentals. Keep it simple, keep it safe, and you'll notice yourself winning a lot more. That's the takeaway of this article. Keep it simple. You don't have to do anything special to win at Magic. It's really something that I took away from this article, and he explains it really well in the initial part of the Magic through an extended allegory, essentially. But I wanted to start with that so that when I was reading through the rest of the article, as I like to do with these, just go through the whole article so you can all kind of learn from it. Keep that in mind, that you don't have to do anything fancy to win in Magic the Gathering. Sometimes the simplest move is the flashiest. So with that in mind, we're going to go through the rest of the article now. When most people think about martial arts, they more or less think about what they've seen in Jackie Chan movies or Michelle Yeoh movies. In either case, they've probably been thinking about backflips, spinning jump kicks, maybe the occasional fireball shooting from someone's fingertips. The fact that there's a Ryu card for this now cracks me up. I know this to be true because these are the things I had in mind when I joined a student-run martial arts club back in college. If you're thinking about this as an allegory for Magic the Gathering, you just think about casting like your splashy, expensive spells when you play Commander, people doing crazy stuff, infinite combos, all this crazy stuff. Indeed, there were plenty of cool stuff to learn. Each class was about 90 minutes. We'd do our normal workout, then the instructor would teach us a new move. This could be a takedown or an arm lock or anything else super awesome. Finally, we'd have some time for sparring, which was simply open practice against other students. We wouldn't go hard enough to hurt each other, but it would definitely be enough to fire up the competitive spirit. After a year of training, I'd learned a lot. I could usually beat or fight to a draw against most of the other students in sparring. That was until Mark showed up. Mark was a year younger than me, but had several years of martial arts training at a more serious school. Just one thing, it always is when you're younger, like when somebody's younger than you or someone seems less experienced, just like always keep in mind that people have different trainings and stuff like that. Like just because Mark hadn't shown up to the class before doesn't mean that Mark wasn't good at martial arts or something before. And never underestimate your opponents just because you haven't seen them at your local game store or something before. Things like that. He was as big as me, as strong as me, but much faster and much more skilled. He beat me senseless. At first, it was only figuratively speaking that he beat me senseless. Later, though, through no fault of Mark's, I'd actually wind up leaving class beaten and bruised. It's because when I couldn't win fair and square, I started to get frustrated, putting more strength and aggression behind my moves. This is exactly the opposite of what most martial arts teach, and Mark showed me why. He'd easily deflect my attacks, and I'd wind up at far greater risk of injury than he ever was. I'd spend each week thinking about what moves I could use on Mark in the following class. It's funny because this is exactly how I think people who go to Friday Night Magic feel sometimes, where it's like, oh, I lost to that guy at Friday Night Magic again. Okay, how am I going to beat him next time? This is why I really like this article, because it's so easy to relate to as someone who plays Magic the Gathering. I'd see it so clearly in my head, how I'd be able to trick him or catch him off guard, how I'd do something that he wouldn't expect. But that's never how it played out in practice. Anytime I'd throw a new sweep or a joint lock, I'd leave some opening that Mark would exploit, and I'd end up flat on my back. I also think it's hilarious that they use the flattened card here. What was the difference between Mark and me? For a while, anytime this question would cross my mind, I'd satisfy myself with the answer, he's better than me. One day, though, I decided to consider more deeply and try to come up with a more precise answer. We were both humans. We both had 2 arms and 2 legs. What was he doing that I wasn't? Just like Magic. We both have 40 cards in our deck. We both have lands and spells. What are they doing that I'm not? How can I get better? These are just the sorts of things that you can already tell that he's got like kind of that Magic the Gathering mindset, and this is something you can cultivate in yourself as well. I came to realize that the better question was, what was I doing that he wasn't? The answer is that I was making mistakes. I was leaving myself vulnerable while he wasn't. Mark never did any fancy Michelle Yeoh moves on me. All he was doing was staying calm and neutralizing whatever I did. He'd just sit there and wait for me to do something stupid, which I inevitably would. There's a saying where like the longer a game of Magic the Gathering goes, the more likely it is that the good player will win, because all of the small decisions you make over the course of the game add up over time. And if you keep making those well, then you'll win. And that's why a lot of the times good players win these longer games or enjoy control decks and stuff like that. But yeah, just you can oftentimes in Magic the Gathering just wait for your opponent to make a mistake. The following week, I came to class with a new strategy in mind. No tricks, no Hail Marys, no moves at all. When it came time for me to spar with Mark, I just played calm, collected defense. My legs were solid underneath me, my chin was tucked down, and my arms stayed close to my body. This is like saying my deck was 2 colors, I had a solid mana curve, and I played 15 creatures, or around there, something like that. A minute passed, and neither of us had given up any openings. It was already longer than I'd ever survived against him. This time, it was Mark who eventually got impatient. He went in to finish me off, but I stayed solid, and while his balance was temporarily off, this time he ended up on his back. Shortly after, I had won. Although my story paints this as some earth-shattering battle, this wasn't exactly the case. There was nothing on the line, no crowd cheering, no beautiful women swooning. It was just a friendly contest at 6:50 p.m. on a Thursday night. Nobody else even noticed, just a proud Reid and a surprised Mark. Mark remained a much better martial artist than me for the rest of my time in the class. He still beat me far more often than anything else. Once in a while, I could fight him to a draw. And in those few and far between times, maybe on a day where Mark was a little off and I was really in the zone, I could get a coveted win. I'd finally learned what I needed to do to have a chance against him. The big flashy moves sometimes worked for me when I used them against less experienced opponents. However, as the level of competition went up, it was less about who had more techniques in their arsenal and more about the fundamentals. It was about being careful, staying tight, and not leaving yourself vulnerable. This is a lesson I've carried with me ever since and that I try my best to apply to MTG. And then we get back to the end of the article, which is you don't have to do anything special to win at Magic. You don't have to come up with a deck or strategy that no one else has ever thought of. Quite the opposite. It's the simplest strategies that perform best. If you did enjoy this breakdown, in the comment section down below, leave hashtag simple strategies because those perform best. And that'll let me know you made it all the way till the end of the video. I really do hope you enjoyed it. Hit the like button, subscribe for more if you did. And I really do think this is a fun type of article because it's the sort of concept that you can have explained to you, but hearing it through the lens of this story really helps it stick in my mind where I'll be like, just keep it simple. And then I just immediately picture like martial arts or something like that. And that really helps for me at least. And so I hope it helps for you as well. That's going to do it for this one though. I hope you enjoyed it and I will talk to you next time.